Howdy, folks. I'm sedentary, silver-boarded fertility, silently sleeping through scary storms.
I'm Amber.
And here are more silent storms for us to, like, scarily sleep through, silently sleep through. I don't know. If they're so scary, then why are we sound asleep? I just don't buy it, Amber. Just like I don't buy any of these Reddit stories. Let's get started. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Refusing to Return a Dog That I Adopted to His Original Owner? Well, about a little over a year ago, I went through probably the worst time in my adult life. I was engaged, and I found out that my fiancé was cheating on me. I was living in a condo that he owned, and even though he wanted to try to make things work, I couldn't do it, so I left and moved home temporarily. Moving home at 32 wasn't in my plans, and it took a toll on my mental and emotional health. I was sad, embarrassed, and my mental health wasn't good. Fortunately, I have supportive parents and an awesome job that let me take leave and got my mental health back to at least stable. For quite a while, eating and sleeping were major struggles for me, and finding motivation wasn't great. Well, after a lot of therapy and tough work, I started to feel somewhat human again, but still very much sad. I found an apartment, and I had been considering adopting a pet. I talked it over with my therapist, and she told me that she thought that it could be good for me to look into it. I went to a local rescue, thinking that I would find a puppy that I could raise and care for. What I didn't expect was that I found an older dog, he's 7, who had been given up when his owners were expecting a child. He was so sad and honestly a bigger breed than I was thinking that I wanted, but I grew up with dogs. The woman at the rescue told me his backstory. His owner had him prior to getting married, and the wife wanted the dog gone because she felt that he wouldn't be safe around her baby. He had no history of aggression and just seemed timid and depressed. I instantly connected with the dog, and we went for a walk, and I knew that I would be taking him home with me. That was almost 10 months ago, and I honestly have to say that we make each other's lives so much better. I cook for him, we watch movies, he is an amazing motivation for me to get out and walk every day. I have human friends, of course, but this dog is my bestie, and I can't imagine not having him. Well, it brings up the issue at hand. Apparently, the people who surrendered him realized that the wife was forcing the dog out. It was now a mistake. They have contacted the rescue, who in turn have contacted me. I was absolutely floored that they would even ask me if I was willing to speak with his ex-family. Apparently, there is something where I guess a pregnant woman become fearful or whatever of animals. Well, the husband never wanted to give up the dog, but it was an ultimatum that the wife gave. I told them that there was no way that I would be willing to traumatize my dog and give him back to the people who just tossed him away. I feel like the fact that they were even asking this upset me, because animals aren't just something that you toss away or whatever and then you can change your mind about. I asked them not to contact me again, and I blocked the rescue on social media because I was afraid that his old owner would find me there. I can't imagine being pressured to give up something like a dog that you had for years, but I feel that it isn't my problem. Losing him would be a horrible thing for both of us. I feel like we found each other for a reason. Am I being selfish, or am I in the right here? Update, I just want to thank most of the people who commented and made me feel a lot more justified in my feelings and how I reacted. I appreciate all of your feedback. Alright folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. This is your dog. They made the choice to give the dog away, and it wasn't just like one day the wife dropped him off and then the husband came back the next day and picked him up and was that wasn't supposed to happen. For 10 months they were okay without the dog.
Yeah.
And so they lost their shot. OP has been a good dog owner, and the dog seems to be thriving with OP, and you need to do what's in the best interest of the dog, not what the other people want.
Well, and I imagine that this was probably pretty hurtful for the poor dog too, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be abandoned like this and scared and not knowing where their owners are and all these different things. And, here OP comes in and takes them home. They get used to their new home. They've been there for 10 months. I don't know how anyone could give up their beloved pet after, 10 months of being with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel for these people. I understand that the husband was in a difficult position. Ultimatums in relationships, as we've talked about, are never a good or healthy thing. And in the end, he gave up something that was very valuable to him. But unfortunately, when you give up something, there's a chance that you're not going to get it back. And especially when it comes to pets.
Mm-hmm.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And I am an NPC cause what? Says, not the jerk. I used to work for a vet/groomer. A dog came in for a groom, but started showing abnormal signs, and it turns out that she went into bloat, stomach flipped and twisted. This is a death sentence without treatment. The owners were called, but they didn't want to treat her or even come and see her, so they opted for euthanasia. The receptionist that had the dog a receptionist that had known this dog for years offered to take her, foot the bill for the surgery, on the condition that the dog now belonged to the receptionist. The owner said, whatever, sure. The receptionist rushed the dog to emergency vet. Surgery goes well. Receptionist spends days sleeping on the floor with the dog while it recovers from surgery. The old dog's owner's rich mom calls the veterinary practice owner, saying that the dog's owner regrets giving up the dog and wants it back. The vet practice owners force the receptionist to give back the dog and refunds the receptionist for the surgery. Receptionist is literally heartbroken and sobs at work for days. I will never forgive the vet practice owners for disregarding a receptionist's time and emotions so much and giving the dog back to people who wanted to euthanize it. Keep your dog. They don't have a legal leg to stand on. And OP replies, I asked a friend who is an attorney, and she told me that they couldn't force me to return him. It isn't even the money that I spent on the adoption fees, the vet appointments, the grooming, food, and his very stylish wardrobe. I feel like we are deeply bonded. He sleeps on my bed, and I take him everywhere. That's dog appropriate, with me. He was in the shelter for a couple of months before I got him, so they waited like a year to decide that they wanted him back. I don't think that they deserve him, and I think OP is right. And good Asenta Sethafala 95 said, we had a dog many years ago who developed an autoimmune disorder. We were bringing him into the vet's office once or twice a week for treatment/tests. For a while, it didn't look like he was going to make it. One of the vet techs stopped me and asked me about our long-term plans. We told her that it depends on his quality of life. And she said if we decide that he's too much, she would take him either temporarily or on a permanent basis. Her love was so overwhelming for the animals that you could see each animal was like family to her. We found a treatment that actually worked for our boy and got really good at recognizing flares when they would come. And our boy lived another 8 years as a happy pup. That poor vet tech who had to give up her dog to someone who was going to throw her away was unconscionable. Vet techs take it in the heart every single day. And OP replies, I love the staff at our vet's office and they're so great. My vet has my dog officially listed as a lab cross, which I mean, maybe he is, that I don't have any issue with that in our building. And I know that person that the vet talked about how the vet made the vet tech give back the dog. They couldn't be bothered with the broke my heart. All right, folks, on our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling a Friend That She's Not Quirky? She's Just a Bad Guest. So I'm a 22-year-old female, and I had my friend Claire, not a real name, stay over at my apartment for a weekend. We both have been close since college. She's the kind of person who proudly says, I'm not like other girls, and has a strong opinion about oat milk. She's fun in small doses. Keyword is small. Anyways, I invited her to stay for 2 nights since she was in town for a concert. Seemed chill. She shows up with one tiny tote bag and a plant and no toothbrush. She immediately kicks off her shoes, socks, and takes over my couch like it's a personal throne. Fine, whatever, I'm flexible. Then she goes through my fridge and says, you don't have any pickles? What kind of life are you living? I laughed it off until she started quirkily reorganizing my spice rack by vibes instead of function, and moved all of my books by color. She then said it felt more aesthetically aligned with my energy. Ma'am, the energy is chaos. But the real kicker was Sunday morning. I walked into the kitchen and I found her using my toothbrush because it looked like the one that she had at home. And I called her out, nicely at first, and she just giggled and said, don't be weird, I brush my teeth once a day, it's not that serious. So I lost it and I told her flat out, you're not quirky, you're just a bad guest with boundary issues. She packed her stuff and left early. Now she's telling people that I was aggressive and weirdly uptight. Was I too harsh? I honestly tried to be nice about it, but like, come on, my toothbrush? All right, folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk. What she was doing was basically stomping all over OP's boundaries for her house and showing she had no respect for the space. As a guest in the space, that doesn't give you free reign to do what you will and rearrange the entire house and use people's private possessions like toothbrushes.
Yeah, I mean, I would draw a hard line at toothbrushes. Like, she could have brought her own toothbrush. She chose not to. It seems like she's wildly unprepared for a trip, and she tried to make it OP's problem. Now, reorganizing someone's spice rack, rude, right? Reorganize someone's bookshelf, rude, right? If these are things that they didn't ask you to do, then it's rude to do that.
Yeah.
Using someone's toothbrush, rude and gross.
Yeah.
She's not quirky. She's just rude and gross. And I think that OP was very much justified in calling her out for this behavior. Someone needs to. Apparently, she's gone this far in her life and no one's ever called her out and said, look, this isn't quirky. This is you being a rude individual. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Turmeric Ping says, not the jerk, tell your friends that you were weirdly uptight about her using your toothbrush. And OP replies, laughing my butt off, right? I should have said, yeah, I'm weirdly uptight about my mouth germs and not wanting to swap DNA over Colgate. So sorry for the inconvenience. Honestly though, who sees someone else's toothbrush and thinks, perfect, I'll use that. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk? I want to sleep in the bedroom, but my husband wants me to sleep with the baby, a 1.5-month-old, in the living room so that he can rest. We have a 1.5-month-old baby. I'm exclusively breastfeeding on maternity leave, working part-time, and my partner works full-time and is the breadwinner. Well, for the first few weeks, I slept in the living room so he could get a full night's sleep and be more helpful during the day. Now that the baby only wakes up twice a night, I moved back to the bedroom. I still do all the night care, feeding, changing, and burping, but the baby makes some noise and cries, which disturbs his sleep. He told me that he can't rest properly if we share the room, and it affects his ability to work. I get that his job requires focus, but I kind of thought that he could manage with a little less sleep, at least occasionally. Am I the jerk for feeling like he should be able to push through some of this sleep deprivation too? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. I mean, first of all, he should be pitching in with the overnights to begin with. The fact that he's upset that Opie is getting up a couple of times in the night to take care of the baby is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if anyone's going to sleep on the couch, it should be him,
Exactly.
not the person tending to the baby.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand his frustration. No one likes being woken up in the middle of the night. And I can understand not feeling like you're at your full performance throughout the day, right? But the thing is that when two adults decide to have a baby, there are going to have to be some sacrifices on both of their parts to raise said child.
Well, that's the thing. It's not like some hidden secret that babies are loud and time intensive for the first few years of their lives.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's like kids require a lot of work for the first couple of years, right? And there's going to be some sleepless nights, and there's going to be some times where you need to stay up with a child and feed them and take care of them and whatnot, and because they're completely dependent upon you to do that for them. And I understand that that's a lot of work and responsibility, but if you choose to have children, then you have to be willing to take on that responsibility. That's part of being a parent. Plain and simple, right? And the fact that he wants OP to sleep on the couch, I mean, if I were in his position, I couldn't even imagine suggesting that, right? Like, I would take the couch well before telling my wife, who just gave birth a month and a half ago, that she should sleep on the couch instead of me, right?
Right. Well, I mean, imagine, OP is still physically recovering from everything.
Yeah.
And like, oh, well, I know you're already doing all of the childcare and you're uncomfortable, but, go sleep on the couch and be more uncomfortable.
Yeah, so the whole situation just leaves a poor taste in my mouth. I just don't understand why he is not sacrificing sleep, why he's not helping her in the nights, why he's not taking the couch instead if he really needs to sleep. No. At the very least, they could go out and buy themselves an air mattress, and he could sleep in the living room on an air mattress if the couch is a no-go. But he shouldn't be suggesting the couch if it's a no-go for him, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And nickname was too long says, not the jerk, if it disturbs him, then he can sleep on the couch, not you. And Captain Basket Queso says, I mean, the dude can wear earplugs. I mean, that's also a solution. And It's Treason then says, he can sleep in the car. The audacity of this man. And Ravy Wave says he should sleep at his mommy's house. And the Psy Guy says, we had endless sleepless nights taking turns waking up with the baby. We were both walking zombies for months, but I still worked 60 hours a week, bringing in a wage, and my wife worked 60 hours a week, keeping the household straight. If I had needed extra rest, I would have slept on the couch, leaving her in comfort. We have a partnership. It's what you do as parents, and it's worth every second. And Miss Pa says, were you both mostly alone, like alone together or without family support? I'm imagining they didn't have much in the way of family support, otherwise they wouldn't have been working 60 hours. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, My Mother-in-Law Gave Out Our Address to a Stranger at Walmart. Just like the title says, my mother-in-law gave out me and my husband's address to our house to a complete stranger in Walmart and invited them over to a small pool party that we were having for our 2 young daughters, 3 and 2. She told us right after, laughing, saying they caught her off guard, and she wrote down the address on a piece of paper and told them the time that we planned on having the party. Me and my husband are upset and decided that it might be best to cancel the party because this was supposed to be a family thing only, and we didn't like the idea of having strangers in our backyard. We told mother-in-law and she got mad about it, saying that we canceled it and were trying to punish her because she was excited. We tried to explain that that's not the case, but she wouldn't listen. She has turned husband's family against him and even went as far as saying that she didn't love him and to never talk to her again. But she also expects us to send our kids to her house for visits with a third party picking them up and figuring out the details between us. She said that all of her friends took her side and insisted that we were using her. I think that the whole thing is just ridiculous, but are we the jerks? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. This is horrifying that she would give out your address to a stranger.
Yes.
I think this is probably time to just cut her off completely. Do not let her have your child unattended.
Yeah.
I do not trust her judgment in any of this.
Well, the trouble here that I have is that this could be like dementia or some other mental health issue where she's making very poor judgment calls, because inviting strangers over to your house with small children, I mean, that's a recipe for disaster, right? So I think that if anything, they should encourage her to get a mental health evaluation and see if there's some other deeper problem going on here, because again, this could be a very big concern. If there's no mental health issues, she's just a jerk, right?
Right. Well, and I guess it depends on if there's been a change of behavior too, because the way OP writes this, it kind of just seems like this is par for the course for her.
Yeah, if this is par for the course for her, then this is just her, right? And maybe at that point in time, it's time to go low or no contact with her.
But that's a good point, that if this is a sudden change and she's all of a sudden doing this stuff, it may be time to see if you can talk her into getting checked out.
Yeah, I mean, if I were, and also, I think that OP and their husband might be over concerned about these people showing up, because if a random woman approached me in Walmart and told me that there was going to be a pool party with small children, I would very quickly back away from them and be like, oh, that's really nice of you. Oh, of course I'll take your address. That's very kind of you. You're a very nice person. I'm going to walk this direction here, and you have a great day now. Thank you. Then that's how I would treat it. I would be very kind to her, but I would certainly never see her again and hope I never saw her again. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say on this one. Wheel of Judgment, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the judgment that OP's earned. A saint, but misunderstood.
I mean, I guess that kind of, I don't know if it's really saintly, but you know.
Amber, you don't seem to understand. The Wheel's judgment is impeccable, infallible even. So if it says that OP is a saint, then OP is a saint.
Yeah, I don't buy your assessment of the wheel.
Yes, well, I don't buy your unassessment of the wheel. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
Which fruits will you find on the stage?
Oh, I know exactly what fruit you'll find on the stage, because I quite often find these fruits on the stage in my face. It's rotten tomatoes. They're the best fruits for throwing at people like me who make terrible jokes. I sit up there and I say dad jokes, and people throw fruit at me. And then, you know what? I don't have to do grocery shopping anymore.
Citrus fruits, they love the limelight.
Ah, that makes sense.
And it's International Picnic Day.
So make sure to go find yourself a picnic. And if you don't have a picnic, find someone else who is picnicking and steal their picnic. And then you can have a picnic.
You don't steal people's food. That's bad advice.
Yes, I mean, if you want to get away with it, just dress up in a giant ant costume. No one will stop you. No one will stop a giant ant from stealing their picnic. I've done this before. I know it's a fact. And I have Earl Grey. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy, wonderful Wednesday, Hump Day, Friday, Junior's Eve. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. Please have it a haiku for Haiku Wednesday.
Don't give addresses that aren't yours out to strangers. That's very uncool.
I think that works. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.